Some drivers think safety is about being lucky or having just fast reflexes. I was absolutely one of those guys. Definitely. But the best drivers know it's a system. One bad habit can cost you everything. Tonight, we're going to unpack the real habits, tools, and mindset that keep you safe and profitable. And we're going to dip into that right after this.
Paying too much for trucking insurance? What if you could save more by making one simple phone call and keep more profit? You could very well do just that with one simple call to Seabright Agency, 800-366-6466. Call now. With over
Now here's a question that all owner-operators and small fleet owners should consider. What happens when you access the unrivaled advantages that are available through the ES Advantage program? We asked Jeff and Charley from Contractors Corner to share their thoughts on how they've been able to utilize the discounts and services that are a part of the ES Advantage.
So we started looking for a way to save money on fuel. And we were turned on to the ES Advantage program for fuel first. So we got a hold of Jeff Reese, and he ran us through that program. And man, we were starting to save. And then we started talking to them. Well, we saw their website, and we said, Jeff, what's this thing about insurance and accounting and
Right.
You lease trucks? What?
Right. And that's the thing is we only knew it as a fuel card. And when we started digging deeper, I mean, we ended up getting hooked up with an insurance provider, Seabright Agency, and they created an entire insurance program just for us and our people. And from that, we've learned that, now there's even more potential. There's a greater opportunity, and it's completely opened up our eyes and broadened our vision into what it is we're trying to do, which is help people do better. Wrapped with the ES community just makes that process so much easier.
Now, if you're an owner-operator or small fleet owner and you would like to learn more about how you can drive savings to the bottom line of your business, the ES Advantage program has the discounts and services that deliver the kind of unrivaled advantages that are designed to help you improve your overall operation. Get connected with the ES Advantage today.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, man.
Chris is in the UFO country, Roswell, New Mexico. I just like that that's what he calls it. I enjoy that.
It's a whole tourist industry out there, bro.
For real, like they make money from it. It's crazy.
I mean, the truck stop there has a flying saucer on the roof. So.
Right? How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing.
You look like you're doing better than I was the last time you saw me a few hours ago.
Yeah, a little bit.
Hold up. I got to stop the show right here. Craig, my man. I had no idea, bro. No idea whatsoever. Congratulations. Oh my God, dude got married. Who knew? I didn't know. Jeff didn't know. We saw pictures. I'm like, did you see that? He's like, yeah, man, I saw it. I'm like, oh my God. Congrats, bro. Oh, I
Yeah.
Awesome for you, sir. Man. And that would explain why Craigbot wasn't first.
That's right.
Which day did this happen, Craig? Was it actually on Saturday? I'm completely baffled by all this. I'm just like, wow. Chris was first. Tim was second, and Mike Anderson was actually third.
Nice.
They were all cracking on like, no Craigbot, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I wonder who paid attention because I did not know, and I'm like baffled. He got like fancy clothes on Facebook. He's like, check me out. Man, congrats. You and the wife. I just speechless, which is weird for me
Oh,
in my way.
hey. So if there's anybody heading west out of Indianapolis, by the way, on I-70, good luck. The highway shut down. They had a big truck catch fire.
Craig said a few months ago,
What?
bro.
Weeks. It says weeks.
Oh, a few weeks ago. Still, it might as well have been 3 years ago. How did this dude is so low key?
I don't know.
It's
I was home
crazy.
for like 3 weeks and not paying any attention to anything. So,
Oh man, no idea, bro. Our bad. Just whatever, fancy man. Oh, good to see everybody. Life on 18 Wheels. Dennis, what's going on? Lisa, hello. I've never been out of trouble. That's funny. James, what's going on? Okay, too far. Tim said I-85 around Greer was a disaster due to a wreck too. Oh, great.
yep. So it being Blitz week, and one of the things they're checking is brakes. Big truck fire on I-70. I'm wondering maybe that guy should have gotten inspected. I don't know.
So, okay, I think I said it wrong to you, man, because they kept talking about brakes, and all the official things don't say brakes now.
Oh, is it just tires then? And
Tires and
rods?
false E-rods.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm sure they're going to be looking at brakes. How could they not, right?
Yeah, Lisa says Craig needs to have his nose in the corner for not telling everybody he was getting married.
Yeah. Probably went on his honeymoon in a new Volvo, right?
Hey, hotel on wheels.
Hey, now. If the truck's a rocking, never mind. Anyhow, look, you're going to get me in trouble. Whew. Hey, James, welcome back. Let's just dive into this, Brute. Safety isn't just about avoiding wrecks. It's about protecting your life, your income, and your future. I know it's not a huge, sexy topic, but, why do you see some people in more accidents than others, it seems? How have you avoided them thus far? Why is reaction-based safety not enough in today's trade environment? There's all these things, and there's little systems, little habits, that can prevent big problems. And with the blitz going on, this kind of goes with that. And I know most of you probably just don't want to deal with the blitz, but without this stuff, you don't have a business. I mean, like I said at the beginning, one little thing, and you're out of business. And safety is just, I think it's so much easier to do it. I really think that just paying attention to the little things, and Jeff and I have said this before, you pay attention on the little things, they'll stop the big things.
Hey, Charlie, you're cutting out real bad.
I don't know why. It says I'm good.
It's weird.
Solid signal, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So we're gonna downtime from preventable incidents, right? These things are gonna cost you money, possibly higher insurance rates depending on what your operation is. Damaged equipment, lost loads. And look, if you're ever going to get your own numbers, things like that, they're looking at your driving record, brokers, direct customers, things like that. How is that going to affect your potential revenue?
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't think about, is the effect on freight for your business. If you work for a mega carrier, their CSA score, their safety score, has a direct impact on their ability to get contracts. You know, that's why they push that safety narrative so hard. And I don't know that this is going to sound bad, Charlie, but they're not necessarily as concerned about the safety as they are about that safety score.
Right.
Because
no, I think that's a fair statement.
It has a direct impact on their ability to get these contracts that keep us moving. I work at a carrier that has a lot of military contracts. They haul explosives, right? Their safety score has to be pristine, or they'll lose that contract. That's a really lucrative contract, Charlie.
Right.
And so right now, because I don't know, some jackwagon decided not to wear their glasses and got inspected. Recently, we've been getting daily updates on how many inspections fleet-wide, how many pass, how many fail, how many out of service.
Right.
They've really been hitting it the last couple of weeks, Charlie.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it's a much smaller carrier than like a Swift. So, one truck gets in trouble, for lack of a better term, right?
Right.
And it really impacts their safety score. Because what a lot of people don't realize is, Swift, for instance, will get a really bad rap. Oh, I always see Swift in the ditch.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, Swift's got 14,500 trucks.
Right. And they run how many millions of miles every year?
And how the safety score is calculated is incidents per million miles driven. So when you actually look at the safety scores from FMCSA, Swift is one of the safest companies on the road. And I don't want to hear from you people like, oh, effing Swift, right?
Right.
You can't argue with the actual data, guys. Okay. Swift is, in fact, by that metric, incidents per million miles driven. The last time we looked at it, Charlie, they were the second safest carrier in the country.
Might as well say country.
I can't remember who number one was, but it wasn't even close.
Right.
And then
it was the Walmart fleet.
Was it the Walmart fleet?
Yeah.
And then from Swift to number 3 was another huge gap. Not even close. So that's how these scores look when the government collates the data. Is that by million miles driven? So how does that affect you guys that maybe you've got 2 or 3 trucks with your own numbers? You have one safety incident that affects your score. What's your incident per million miles driven?
Right.
That is really detrimental to a small fleet, especially with freight being kind of dry anyway, right?
Right.
I'm having to read your lips, Charlie, so I don't have access to the document right now.
No, you're fine, man. I like that you're reading my lips.
Hey, now.
Let me make them a little more clear. My bad. But higher insurance premiums. Well, like Jeff said, with the accidents per million miles, all these things. I mean, imagine, you've got 20,000 trucks and 100 of those trucks wreck, right? What's that percentage? I'm not doing the math. You want to figure it out, go ahead. You've got.
Well, you can make the math easier. If you had 10,000 trucks and 100 of them wrecked, that's 1%.
There you go. Right? But if you've got 5 trucks or 10 trucks and one of them has a wreck, right? Your percentages are skewed.
Yep.
And talking about, a guy with, his first truck or maybe 2 or 3 trucks, man, that's 30%, in a 3-truck operation. And how long does it take you to get 1 million miles for each of those trucks?
Right.
I mean, it's insane. And so your overall business health is going to suffer because you're going to get crap freight. You're never going to get into, direct carriers and things like that. And let's be real, that's where the money and the steadiness comes in. You
Right.
can say, I'm on time, I'm super safe, and they pull up your safer score, and you're like, I don't think so, bro. But instead, you could have 10 inspections on your 3 trucks, and they all pass with flying colors and no accidents. So one of the things that we're talking about is getting into a system. And I had to do this because, like I said, I used to just think, hey, man, I got super fast reaction time. And I really did. I truly did. I mean, it was measured, and I had a very fast reaction time. But that doesn't fix the people around you. Overlooking those pre-trips and just kind of, for lack of a better term, just kind of, running through the numbers. I mean, what the hell good is that? Are you actually paying attention to those things? And the repair costs. Oh my God.
Yeah.
From wrecks. I mean, look, someone backs into your hood, that's 20 grand.
Yeah, we were talking to Tony about this, and just too much body damage is totaling trucks now.
We just heard about a tow bill that was over 100 grand.
Yeah.
That they had to, figure out, and it was like, Jesus. But yeah.
Well, they were saying that the average tow bill off the turnpike in Pennsylvania is over 50 grand.
Right.
That's average.
I think that's just to get them to come out, period. You know what I mean? Good Lord. It's something else. I mean, it really is. I'm going to put our little question up here. So what's the most expensive mistake you've seen or made on the road? And go for it.
You know mine, Charlie.
Yeah.
Driving in the ice when I shouldn't have been out there.
Right.
It's boy, that was an eye opener. I made it what, like 15 years with no accidents at all.
Right.
And then that happened.
The perfect
ruined my record.
180.
Yeah, I did a complete 180 in the middle of I-80 on black ice.
And did not jackknife the truck.
Did not jackknife the truck. And the whole time, I'm just gripping the wheel and doing the thing, right? I'm swearing it's going over.
I can't even imagine, bro. What a ride.
But, it was all covered under insurance, so I don't even know what it actually cost. I know that I had to replace the passenger side fairings on that truck. And, it took them a month to get the parts in.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not one of those pride in your ride people. Like the last time I washed my 2016 was in 2018. So
right.
It's not one of those guys.
I almost washed my truck yesterday.
Really? Wow.
And then I took a nap instead.
Yeah. So, but I drove around without that fairing for a month waiting for the parts to come in. And then Charlie, check this out. One of the reasons it took a whole month, it was the passenger side fairing that needed to be completely replaced, right? They ordered the driver's side fairing.
Of course they did.
Yep. Oh, that sucks, Matt. Let's put that one up there. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Matt had not having an air connection to his main air tank. $20 part cost $280 because he had to get a roadside. It was only 5 miles out from a terminal late at night.
Right.
That's like the trifecta of mistakes right there.
And yeah, man, it's funny because you're like, um, you get in this rush, and when you feel like you're in a rush is when you really need to stop and slow the heck down, because that's when the world goes wrong and it stacks against you. It's just baffling, Um,
Yeah.
but what we're suggesting, and personally, what we've done in our lives, over our careers, is working on building a personal safety system, right? Your pre and post trip routines that actually work. Hey, Ida, um, checking your loads. If you have access to climb up there and look at how this load is secured, by all means. On those loads where I can't, I kind of spend the first few minutes kind of wiggling the trailer around right where I can, and see how it's reacting to, maybe a quick turn or a little bit of a hard brake real quick, while at low speed, of course, to try and get a feel for it. Trying to factor in weight, how it's distributed, things like that. Um, Tires and brakes. You guys know me, and tires and brakes, let's just be real, are a huge thing. Um, we had somebody in one of the groups recently talking about they only had like 200,000 miles on the truck or something like that, and like all of the brakes were cooked on the truck.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I didn't understand how or why, and I mean there was lots of comments, and one of them was a little snarky, but probably not a bad question. Do you ever use the Jake?
Yeah, no kidding.
I've got 400,000 on mine. The truck will be in the shop tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure my brakes are legit still. I mean, I know my drive axle brakes are still doing all right. I can kind of look at the rotors on my steer axle, and they don't look gouged or cracked or hot or anything. I drive mostly flat ground though, for the most part.
Huh.
I and I just typically don't drive super fast either. You
Yeah,
know,
one of
I,
the things that you have to be careful of with brakes, Charlie, is that the more experienced drivers, you really need to be getting under there and checking your brakes like they taught you in school. Because a lot of us, we don't stomp on the brakes heavy enough for the automatic slack adjusters to do anything.
right,
Especially you guys that are driving the standard transmission, that tend to use the transmission to slow yourself down when you're coming to a stop, like on an off ramp. A lot of times you don't use the brakes that often, and they do get out of adjustment. So make sure you're getting under there and checking that out. Um, on my trucks, Charlie, I've had 4 of them from Swift, right?
right,
The 16 is the only one that I've had to change brakes on, but it's got almost 1,000,000 miles on it. My 12, I had to replace the steer axle brakes, but that was because I had an oil leak that contaminated the brakes.
right,
So if you're driving safely, if you've been around and long enough to have the skill to drive these things, you're not going to go through brakes all that often.
right.
But that doesn't mean you don't get under there and check. I mean, let's be real. If you're in a drop and hook situation, I mean, I've had the same trailer for months, so that's not a thing for me. But you need to be getting under there and checking those brakes every time you grab a new trailer. We know that these mega carriers, their maintenance is spotty at best,
Right.
I think is a good way to put it.
That's nice. Oh, I forgot I left the old one up here. Let's put this other one up. Uh, Good Lord. Train wreck every week. That's what we do. Even with our notes, I still go off the rails here. Pre-trip inspection routine, post-trip walk around and maintenance notes, load securement, double check, right? I mean, I don't get to see most of what my loads look like until I get to my first stop. And then I usually end up cussing people out and shaking my head and trying to straighten things out. And it sometimes changes the way that I handle the rest of that trip because, good Lord. Um, Digital reminders or e-log for compliance, right? Daily brake, tire, and fluid checks. All these things can help you avoid, some of these bigger accidents by doing the little things first. You know, if maybe you're only getting under the truck once a month, but once a month is pretty good to really get down there. Spend
Well,
a couple hours.
Charlie, I saw it again yesterday. The dude that was parked next to me, I saw him get up, open his curtains, pee in his bottle, and leave. He did not get out of that truck, man.
Right.
And it has never happened to me, but I am paranoid about someone messing with my truck and trailer when I'm sleeping.
Right.
Knock on wood, it's never happened to me, right?
And what better time to see those things than before you start driving?
Yeah. Well, we've all, as long as we've been out on the road, Charlie, you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it at least once. Somebody dumping their trailer on their way out of a pilot or something.
Right.
I've seen it a couple times.
And it's usually right in front of the driveway. Let's be real.
Yeah. People don't check.
So Matt asked a good question. Has anyone had their fifth wheel looked over to make sure it's in proper adjustment? That's something that a lot of people don't do. Some of the megas, I know Swift it actually does. Well, they're supposed to. That is one of the things that I know I've seen our shop guys do over here. I got a lot I can say to the negative, but I can actually say that I watched them go out there with that crazy little bar thingy, hooky, kingpin handle thing, and lock it in and see if it's actually working. It's a trip, And I had a fifth wheel go bad. That was to a point where it seemed secure but wasn't secure, and because of my super focus on it, I was able to catch it and never had a problem, and got, I had to replace a fifth wheel,
Yeah, I lucked out on that one. When mine failed, it wouldn't unlock.
Right. Exactly, Matt. Hey, by the way, what's up, man? I know I'm a terrible person. I haven't called anybody, so don't get sideways on me. Need to also be checking the pins so you don't lose the fifth wheel going down the road, right? I mean, there's so much. But if you just build the routine, right, you'll notice those things when something is off. You'll notice it. I know, Matt. He said it's been 4 months. You'll notice those things at a glance. I mean, you could even see, you might even notice that your fifth wheel slide lock pins aren't engaged, or you'll see it peripherally and think, wait, that didn't look right. You stop and you'll take a quick look. Oh man, what the heck's happened there? I haven't even touched that button and I don't even know how long, because my fifth wheel is set all the way forward as far as I can, and I don't mess with it. With what I'm doing, I can do that. In Chewy, going back to how often we replace brakes. When I picked up Chewy at 492,000 miles, I had them replace the steer axle brakes. So before I started, I had brand new steer axle brakes. The drive brakes were great, no problem there. I replaced the drive brakes twice in the next 1.4 million miles. And the steer axle I did an additional 2 times to the very first when I picked it up. I was running a lot of over the road then with Chewy, tons of mountains, things like that. Used the hell out of my Jake though. try to pick the right gear and all that stuff. And Chewy has a great Jake. I mean, I hardly ever use the brakes, to be honest. You know, it's just odd. And in these automatics, if you're not using the Jake, right, it's all brakes, man, because you don't really control those gears like you did in a manual. So you're not getting that compression pushback to slow you down. It's shifting lower gears as you slow down, meaning you've applied brake pressure.
Yep.
Right. The Jake in my Freightliner, my 22/23 Freightliner, man, hit an off ramp, drop the Jake, tap the brake just to engage it, and I don't have to touch the brakes again most times on most off ramps. That thing is solid, like legit. Oh my gosh, make you put a little pressure against your seatbelt sometimes, not drastically so, but enough that you don't use a whole lot of brakes, I don't think. But at the same time, if you're not using a Jake, there you go. You're going to eat through those brakes. Automatics in general, whether we're talking about big trucks or regular, four-wheelers, automatics go through brakes more frequently than manual shift transmissions. It's just a fact. There's just so much, you know what I mean? But it's all these little things that you could be doing.
Yeah.
If you just get into a rhythm, a system, we use the word system all the time because that's what it is. It's a system of doing things. You build your list, your procedure, and you try to follow that every day. And over time, it becomes second nature. So what are your guys' pre-trip or securement rituals? What are you guys doing when you pick one up every day? What are you doing, as your daily pre-trip? Not everybody's not out there doing the full 30-minute, 22,000 point inspection on their pre-trip. It's reality, right?
Right.
And over the years, you tend to get into a rhythm, a flow, and you can pick out all these things as you go. When Rosie and I pick up a trailer, I have certain things that I specifically look at. She has certain things that she specifically looks at, and we do our walk arounds and together. Well, actually, we go opposing directions, and because of that, then there's some other little things that both of us just kind of we eyeball because it's there and it's habit and it's easy to look at, right? And then we compare notes at the end. All right, what'd you see? What'd you do this? What happened here? And through that, the DOT states that you have to take a look at your vehicle, but you have to be I can't even think of the exact wording. I used to know the exact wording, but I'm getting old and whatever. But you have to be satisfied that your truck is safe to operate on the highways, right? And through mine and Rosie's ability to do our little crisscrossing pattern back and forth, every now and then she'll see something that I missed, and I'm like, man, that's good catch. Thank you. So I had Charley, having two.
I'm curious. Do you have disc brakes all the way around or just your steers?
Just the steers.
I've got them all the way around on this truck.
Right.
There is a difference with the way the brakes behave.
Right.
Not a big deal, but it definitely was different when I first got in this truck. I was like, wow, that's different. So theoretically, the disc brakes are supposed to be better, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're supposed to be less wear and better reliability.
If someone could show me a tool that is available for me to check pad thickness, that'd be great.
Matt said, I go over my truck even during the middle of the day with a flashlight. Even when it's bright outside, it the sun doesn't get into all the dark places. And then his friends laughed at it. Then he gets laughed at by his buddies. That's why they blew 4 tires on this tour last week, and I didn't. Exactly. Ida, consistency is key. Learn to do it the right way and the same way every day. That's a tough statement to make, but yes, every time I do my, like my trailer unhook or hook out of order, I have a very specific order that I do.
Yeah, me too.
Hook into a trailer. Once I line up and latch in, I get out. Well, prior to getting out, I tug then, I get out, I hook up airlines. Whether it's night or day, I make sure that all my lights are on, right? And I hook up the airline, the blue line. I hook up the pigtail. I hook up the red line. I walk to the drive tires. I'm actually looking at this right now. I go past the drive tires. I actually do the, manual thump. I want to know that they're okay. You can look, there's all kinds of arguments we can make about it, whatever. I do stab my tires with an air gauge, but it's part of my ritual. I put a hand on all 4 tires on that side. I get to, and as I'm doing that, I'm bending down to do that. So I look at the 5th wheel handle, right? I make sure that it's in. Rosie actually at that point gets out of the passenger side. And because she's short and my back and my neck are so screwed up, she gets under and makes a visual inspection with the light, the whole 9 yards. And while she's there, it's usually when I'm getting to the handle, she checks in with me. Locked and secured, all good. All right, right? I spin up my handle. I walk down. I'm making, the visual inspections of the overall outside of the trailer. I kick my wings underneath at least once, usually in the center of the wing. I give it a little bump to look for any floppy spots in it. I found that if I kick it in the middle, if there's a broken strut anywhere on the wings, that I can see the difference in it. I get to the tandem area, right? I thump tires again. Our tandems are set all the way back when we pick up a trailer for Target. Rosie, on the other hand, is doing a completely different inspection than I am. We both do the general sweep of the eyes up and down the trailer to, look for any big damage, fresh damage, things like that. She's actually looking underneath the trailer as she's working her way around, because we used to have a lot of problem with hanging air tanks, tank brackets that were broken, things like that, right? And she started keying in on these things. She's looking at that. I'm, and my first walk around, checking, making sure that all the tires are inflated. A flat tire right there is pretty easy to find out. I kick mud flaps. I look at the DOT bumpers. I get around the back. I do a quick visual of the entire rear of the trailer. And then I go down the right side. And I thump tires, and I thump tires, and I thump tires. And it's funny, when I get to the front right corner, I walk out at about a 45, 15 feet or so, look up to check that top marker light, right? I thump my steer tire. I walk around the front of the tractor. My lights are all on, so I'm doing another light check there. I come around to the driver's side. I swing wide out. I look up at that top marker on that side. Thump that tire one more time, get in, another tug test, pull over to our inspection lane, and then we do another inspection, because now we have to take pictures. And I find it to be totally a fluid thing. But Lord help me, when I get out and I don't hook the airlines up first, or something as weird as hook the red line up first instead of the blue line, it completely throws me off my game.
Me
then
too.
I feel like I forgot something.
Here's how anal I am about it, Charlie. If I hang my lines up in the wrong order on the back of the cab, that screws me up.
Yes. It drives me nuts, man. The silly little things, and it will absolutely affect my day until I get out and do it in the right order. So I will go out and all right, I got to retouch the blue line, touch the pigtail, touch the red hand, and go through the whole ritual again. Otherwise, I feel like something could be wrong. And then Rosie, by the way, does another visual inspection of the kingpin. After we slide tandem, or before we slide tandem, she goes back there, pulls our pin because we got the little pin deal, the button air slide for the tandems. Before she starts her real inspection. No, she checks it after that. We slide the tandems, lock it in, shake it. She gives me a thumbs up. I get out, and then we start our second inspection at the inspection lane. Excuse me, hiccups. And if we don't get in that rhythm of that flow, we both feel very odd. Dang, hiccups are going to kill me. I don't know, man. We spent a lot of time on this one. Let's dip into 3 there, Jeff. Dash cams, lane alerts, TPMS, driver-facing tools. I'm not a big driver-facing tool if we're not controlling it. If my customer or my carrier is running it, I'm not there. But there are some really good, cool technologies out there. You know, that Netrodyne thing that Swift and others are using does have an AI-based coaching system. You know, whether it's outward facing or inward facing, they can actually help you out as long as you're the one controlling that product and you're using it for what it is. You know, don't get mad at it, learn from it. They're usually pretty good at giving you indicators that, you know, maybe you could try better here, right? Tech fatigue versus tech advantage. That's a good one. I actually like that. There's a lot of technology out there that a lot of people use, and it literally just overloads you. And so you just start ignoring it. And then, you know, how to use safety data to improve and protect your business. You know, there's a lot of data out there available. Some of us in these megas and big carriers, things like that, don't even know how to access that stuff, but you can get those ECM reports from the dealerships. You know, I feel like, you know, Swift, my carrier, doesn't want to give me that information. I've never asked. I used to get it pulled on Chewy from time to time. It's weird to look at. Like, I had to ask someone that, what the hell does this mean, you know? But especially with the newest of the new trucks, there is a lot of data that you could pull out of there that would give you some sort of indicators on, you know, your driving habits. You know, I know that I don't actually have a camera in my truck, but I know that my ECM with that little lane departure camera and all that radar and all that stuff, that gives the carrier information about my driving habits. You know, it can show that, you know, you typically drive over the speed limit based on what it sees out of that little camera. When you have one of those cameras that sees the speed limit sign and you're consistently 10, 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, those are indicators. You know, if you're constantly hard braking, things like that, you know, it even can track what your acceleration rate is on a regular basis. You know, how hard are your turns? You know, if you can get access to that data and actually be open to understanding it and trying to get it interpreted properly, you could learn from that. You know, I hated the lane departure. Brrr, brrr. I mean, Jeff heard me cussing it out yesterday because that thing was like crazy yesterday. It didn't matter what the hell I did. Oh my gosh. But it has made me a better driver.
Yeah. So now that I've gotten curious, Charlie, I'm looking for a air brake gauge. Looks like they run anywhere from like $7 for El Cheapos all the way up to about $81 for an actual Bendix air disc brake pad rotor gauge tool.
Oh, wow.
And the only place I can find the official Bendix is actually at Walmart, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, walmart.com.
Yeah, that makes sense.
143. Huh. Seems like that should be something we carry with us.
Right?
Because remember when Alan did that demonstration on how to check brakes at the conference we had, he gave away a tool set that included one for the for the drum brakes. But that's the challenge with the disc brakes is you can't see everything like you can with the drum.
Right.
So I think the tool is the way to go.
No, absolutely.
So we're on what, section 3?
Yeah, I should put up a graphic. How's that? Let's see. Sorry, I'm crossing screens here. Man, buttons. Dual dash cams, driver and road facing. Again, if you control the camera, I'm actually not opposed to that.
Well, the camera that we really liked was one that had, and I can't remember who made it, but it had a driver facing function to it, and it would actively coach you on your driving.
That's the Netrodyne.
The Netrodyne, right. And it would give you real-time coaching while you drove down the road. And, I know what people are going to say about that. Oh, I don't need that in my truck. I'm like, well, so anything that makes you a safer driver, I'm all for it. I just don't want my carrier to be coaching me as an owner operator. As a company driver, that's different. You're an employee. But why wouldn't you put something like that in there? Charlie, you told me that having the lane departure warning system in your truck made you a better driver.
Yeah.
Even though it's annoying sometimes.
Oh, it's got moments.
I make sure I turn it off when I see that I'm getting into a construction zone. Absolutely. But one of the things I found with that when I was mentoring, the first time I had that was on my 2012. When I was mentoring, there was no more of this argument. Hey, bro, you're hugging that fog line. Hey, bro, you're hugging that fog line. Hey, man, stay in your lane. I am. Well, the computer says you're not. So let's get in the center of the lane.
Yeah. And look, I learned how to drive to favor that right side.
Yep.
To give me just a little more time to react to something coming from the left. And in a big truck, I live in the right lane most of the time.
Yeah,
so it works
absolutely
great for me. But if you're in that habit and you're running in the center lane, that can be problematic. So I've had to adjust what I've done for so many damn years, 30, 40 years, right? And retrain myself. And it's frustrating and it's maddening at times.
I can hardly wait until you have the side facing radar.
Right? I'm
going to hear about that.
Yeah. But I still don't think it's a bad technology. I think they need to make it a little bit better. But I actually am looking forward to a system like that because, with properly adjusted mirrors, I do not believe there is a blind spot. Requires you to actually be scanning your mirrors actively. Right. And let's be real, you get tired, your reactions slow down, you kind of get in a zone, whatever, listening to a good spot in a book, and maybe you're not scanning quite as often as you normally do. Right. Those side-facing radars, I see as a huge benefit because of things like that. And they might get your focus back into your mirrors the way that you should be.
Have you ever driven a car with that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. I wish that the big trucks were more like the cars, where they had the nice little light beep beep beep.
Right.
Because from what I've heard on the Swift trucks, anyway, it'll make you jump out of your skin, man.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That alarm's so loud.
Tire pressure monitoring system.
Yep.
Right? I mean, most of those catastrophic failures happen while you're out there driving. They don't happen when you're parked. Temperatures go up, road hazards, whatever. You can see some of those things happening with a good TPMS.
Yep.
Before they happen and be like, man, I better go check that tire. There's something off there, AI safety tools and fatigue detection, that is typically built into those camera systems. They see you nodding off. They recognize your eyelids, lower than they normally are. They're machine learning. So they are watching you over time and start to key in on your visual cues.
Yeah.
If it notices your eyelids are a little lower than normal and you're hitting the fog lane or the left lane, whatever, on a regular basis, it starts to key in on that type of thing, that sort of reaction from you, and it can learn to alert you prior to it getting bad. But you have to be open to it. You have to be willing to accept what's being coached to you there. I'm not saying it's the catch-all, be-all, knows-all, everything.
But it's worth paying attention to.
Right.
It's worth taking note.
The technology is really getting to a point where the more we use these things, the better that technology will become. I believe. Some people just think that, the more we use it, the dumber we get. And I think that is a possibility if you allow it to be that way.
Yeah.
People with the, self-driving vehicles, option in their Tesla or whatever, right, tend to become complacent.
Yep.
If you're solely relying on these things, look, the most important safety device in your commercial vehicle is the person sitting behind the wheel. That's you.
Well, remember when we were at DAW last year and we were talking to Adam about technology?
Right.
Swift has divested itself from the autonomous truck thing right now. But what he was absolutely still on board with was all this safety stuff.
Right.
Things that help the driver be a safer driver. He's
Right.
still really on board with that.
And they're getting a lot of data out of those self-driving trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's geared towards the safety of the truck. They're by default us.
Yep.
And everyone else out on the road. And they can implement some of that safety technology into the trucks that we're actually driving today. Tracking safety scores, whether you build your own system. I mean, there's things out there that you could do that just you pay attention to, but you have to implement it and you have to pay attention to it.
Right.
A lot of us, again, get overwhelmed by the technology, right? And it becomes useless. So don't overwhelm yourself.
That's worth bringing up, Charlie, is the technology overwhelm.
Right.
By the time you put all this stuff in the truck and you're monitoring everything, it can be a bit much. It can become distracting if you let it. Especially when you put a new system on there that you're not used to, and you're worried about it in the back of your mind all day long until you get used to that dang thing.
Right.
What a lot of people don't realize is that thinking actually burns calories, right? That's why if you do a full day, especially if you're driving in Charlie's favorite place, Atlanta.
Oh, Lord.
It's not this that's making you tired, Charlie. It's the constant, where's that guy at? What's he doing? Good God, what's happening in front of me?
Right.
That sort of stuff. That's what's making you tired.
So here's the question. What's one piece of tech you won't drive without anymore?
I'm going to say something that's going to make people mad, Charlie.
Do it.
And that's my Bendix anti-collision system.
Right? I actually like it.
Again, the first one I had it on, I did not want it. I was like, nope, you ain't putting that on my truck. Well, of course, when you fail to pay a lease off, you end up getting another truck, right? And by then, it was standard. And now, at this point, I don't know that I would drive without one. Having that radar on there and being able to see on the dash that truck in front of me or that car in front of me is 350 feet away. Well, now it's 300. Oh, shit, it's 250. I better pay attention. And have it do its pacing thing kind of releases me from some of my duties so I can focus on my mirrors a little bit more or this or that. I think that's one of the better pieces of safety equipment.
Right.
As long as, and here I'll make some of you more happy now, as long as it's properly tuned.
Right.
We see a lot of problems with them And I'm telling you, Charlie, I have not had any problems with the ones on the 3 trucks that I've driven with them.
Right.
But mine were all properly tuned.
Yeah.
My 16 went out of whack after the accident. I had them I took it to a Freightliner dealership and had them retune it. Right. There's a system that does that. Got it retuned. No longer had the problem. So if you're one of those guys that hates it because, oh, it's always trying to stop me cold whenever there's an overpass, go take it to a dealership and get it tuned.
I'll be right
That's
back.
the
1 second.
Yep.
Jeff, I'm going to leave you here for a sec.
Yeah, Craig, I got you, Charlie. And Craig, yeah, they hard brake when out of calibration. They see things that aren't there. Right. When they're out of calibration. And, it's a piece of electronic equipment that is being bounced down the road in Indiana, right? Or Southern California. It's going to fall out of alignment from time to time. Just go have it tuned. That's the solution. And Matt, you're absolutely right. You can see further in fog than I can, even if I'm driving at a slower, safer speed. Absolutely. Now, I don't glue my eyes to the dash when I'm in the fog, but I'm definitely, looking for that radar to pick something up in front of me. And again, it relieves the stress a little bit for me. Craig, the systems need to be serviced just like anything else, but it gets neglected. Absolutely. I think that's where people that have had problems with them, they're having problems with them because they're not being maintained properly. That's absolutely the case. Les says, if I took the truck to a dealer for everything that needed tuned, I would never drive. I'm interested to know what you drive there, Lance. Yeah. Oh, let's see here. Let's see if we missed anything here. We're coming up on the hour already. I did a thing. So we're going to kind of move on, I think. Charlie's off doing Charlie stuff. So let me ask you guys something, and I'll put it up here. I'll just ask the question here. What is a hard lesson you learned that changed how you drive? What's something that happened to you that, cut and paste here. Technology. What's a hard lesson you learned that changed the way you drive? It's safety related.
Sorry, my bad.
Timothy Ransom says, if it wasn't for the unlimited wireless data, I know I would never be a driver.
Right? At this point? Oh, my God.
How did we live without it, Charlie?
Bro, I don't even know.
Yeah, what's a hard lesson you guys have learned that changed the way you drive? Gosh, I've been driving long enough to where I probably got several stories, but I can't recall any right now, Charlie. You got any?
Safety lesson?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually very early on at my Swift career, ignoring that chain sign.
The chain sign? Oh, it's chain up the truck.
Yeah. And trusting my gut. Right? If you don't feel comfortable, you should not be moving.
Yep.
I mean, there's a certain level of uncomfortableness that creates a better driver.
Yeah.
You have to be adult enough, and I know nobody likes that word, but you have to be adult enough to notice and believe that. I've said it before, when I'm driving completely solo, I actually take slightly more risks.
Uh-huh.
It's been a long time since I've run solo, let's be real at this point. So I don't know that if that has changed or not recently. But I can tell you on my past performance that was a thing. And I would have to start, going back and saying, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea. Would I do this with Rosie in the truck? Maybe I shouldn't be doing it right now. So I learned to trust my gut, my instincts, whatever you want to call it, and to actually pay attention to more, honestly. Sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
and you always have a backup plan on an exit strategy. Never go faster than you feel comfortable. Never go faster than you can see to stop.
Yep.
That's been a good rule for me. That was drilled in my head very early on. I don't care what the curve is marked. If I can't stop in the distance that I can see, I slow down to that point where I believe I can stop in that distance. There's an awful lot of people out there that, a lot of these bad accidents we've seen lately has been because people couldn't stop. Limited sight distance, poor visibility. All of a sudden, bam. These are real things.
So, Charlie, since all of us are business owners, right? Most of the people that we talk to are single truck guys, right? Can you really have a culture of safety in your one truck operation?
100% yes. I absolutely believe that, because a culture starts with you in your business.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you worded that directly to me that way, because I was chomping at the bit on that one. And this is what I was going to go into on that. You can't create or teach that culture if it's not in you first.
Yep.
That's not to say that you can't learn from others, but if it's not your core, it's hard to get others to follow what you want them to do. And if you have employee drivers or people that are contracting to you, you need to be able to express that and get them on board with your vision, because if they can't see your vision, if they're on board with it, it's not going to work.
Yep.
And there are ways that you can teach people. I don't know how much of the section notes you got into at all, Jeff.
I just started with the question.
Okay. But going back to the notes, why real safety is a mindset, not just compliance, falls into what I'm about to say. How to train yourself for drivers without formal classes, right? And turning feedback in close calls and community insight into growth, right? This all starts, Jeff and I will have conversations, and I'm like, man, I had this, this thing happen today. And, I realized that, I was a little in a slack state, man. And I thought to myself, I really need to tighten up. I need to get a little more focused, and I think that in doing that, it's helping me, right? Because I'm reinforcing it in my head. Okay, I need to do better on this thing. But I'm telling Jeff, and maybe it triggers something in his head. He's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a little kind of off today too. All right, you straighten up, because Charlie just almost died. You know what I mean? But you can tell these stories. That's why we tell people in business, bad business decisions that we've made in the past, right? So that others can learn from those decisions.
Right.
The same thing can be said about, you don't have to be harping and finger pointing and chest jabbing, for your employee drivers. Sometimes that's what they need, whatever. That's terrible. Bad advice. Don't listen to that, because they'll sue you. But you guys know what I mean. If you just have conversations and share some of your stories and the things that you've learned over the years, newer drivers or less experienced drivers may take that as, Oh, well, look, he's screwed up. He ain't perfect. He's not the super trucker. He's made mistakes. He's learned from those things. Maybe I can not do that one thing that, built the pyramid in his driver's seat. I'd
Yep.
like to avoid that personally. Um, and I just think that really is the best way to do it. Be able to talk about, that's one of the things in that private group that we run, Jeff, uh, on the Facebooks, is we don't allow you to post pictures of truck wrecks without some sort of learning to come out of it. A lot of people like to post pictures of, oh, look, another dumb Swift truck, or, oh, look at JB, look at, Amazon, whatever, right? And they just leave it there. They don't say anything about the picture they're presenting. They're doing it to be spiteful and, look at them, don't look at me, right?
Yep.
What Jeff and I require, and we will delete those pictures, Jeff and I require is, what can we learn from this, picture or video? What's something you could recommend based on what you see? Because we don't always have the whole story of what we're seeing on these pictures or videos anyhow.
Right.
We start making assumptions, but what can be learned from this thing? If you're just putting it up there to put it up there, we're going to bounce it. If you're putting it up there and you can teach something or learn something or take something away from this, other than, oh, look at this idiot, we're good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the dash cam footage that we see on Facebook, is I'm always looking for an out on those on the dash cam accident videos. Could the professional driver have avoided it? And most of the time I can see an out. Now, in the heat of the battle, right, you may not have thought of that.
Right.
But there's value in looking at those videos and saying, so if he would have just gone this way a little bit, he would have avoided that car, or maybe he tapped the brake a little bit and he could have avoided the accident.
Right.
Sometimes, and we've all experienced this, sometimes speeding up would have avoided the accident.
Right.
You have those jack wagons all the time coming on the freeway that they're 3 truck lengths ahead of you, but they see you, so they hit the brakes.
Right.
It's crazy. But I actually enjoy watching those videos for the educational purposes of it.
Yeah, and there are moments, I'll admit, I'm human, I'm kind of a sick, depraved humor type of guy.
What?
I know, right? But and I'm like giggling, but usually afterwards I actually start thinking about, God, my first reaction is, what an idiot. And then I start looking at it a little bit deeper, and I'm like, man, well, if he had done this here or this there, right? Swift used to have a driver review board. I don't know if they do that anymore, Jeff, or not. That was like way back when. And
I hated those guys.
Right? But and they would pull in random drivers to these meetings even and say, okay, what do you see here? What happened? What do you think happened here? What could have been done differently? And that was part of how they used to choose whether or not a trucking accident was preventable within their own system. A kind of a general consensus, the majority takes it, and, that was your future. I'm just saying.
Well, and that's something that I want to bring up too, Charlie, is that in the trucking world, it's not just about who's at fault.
Right.
It's about preventable, non-preventable.
Right.
Could you have avoided that accident? That's the standard. Preventable, non-preventable, not who's at fault. And I think if we all internalized that, we would have much safer drivers out there.
Yeah. And so I'm going to throw up our questions for this week's show. What's one habit or tool that's made you a safer driver? It says trucker, my bad. If you could teach every rookie one thing about safety, what would it be? And it would make us very happy if you thought about these for a minute came back after the live shows ended and answer those questions in the comment section there. Because here's your chance. Maybe you can inform a new driver. You know, here's your chance to reach a lot of people. I just said, no matter how much information you give drivers or how many safety features there are, you will never take the human component out of driving. Absolutely.
Yep.
So with that being said, I didn't use our fourth graphic. Oh, well, maybe I should throw it out there real quick. Let's take a look at it. Let me pull this down. I have to make it bigger on another screen because I can't. Yeah, there you go. So lead with the safety mindset, set clear standards for yourself and team, right? It's important. Review incidents and share lessons learned. And always be trying to do better. Ongoing learning and skills practice. You know, community accountability and peer mentorship. You know, this is what I do with Jeff and other people. You know, I did this thing today and this was the outcome and it scared the poop out of me. You know, and well, Jeff's like, well, you idiot, why'd you do that? You know better. And I'm like, you're right. But I fell into that complacent mindset. Well, get your head right, man. You know, if not, I'm going to poke you in the eyeball. Something, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. You know, making mistakes is part of being human in the human experience, and it's going to be part of your business. If we can limit those mistakes and get you thinking about things beforehand, less mistakes are made, therefore less profits are lost.
Right.
And that could absolutely save your business. And I mean, your physical, financial, and mental well-being all the way around. If those things aren't a problem, it's not a problem. Mouth shut, eyes open. Absolutely. Sometimes that is the way. Eyes and ears open. You know, some people can't do that. They don't want to hear it. Oh, you're just the old crusty dude, right?
Well, this reminds me of, you know, the stories from war veterans when I was in the Army. The old, oh, shoot, there we were stories, right? Those were gold to those of us that had never been in combat, though.
Right.
You know, what did they do when the shit hit the fan? You know, those stories, you know, there was a lot of knowledge, hidden knowledge there. Sure, they were fun stories. You know, you're in the bar with them or whatever, and they're talking, and everybody's laughing it up and all that stuff. But they would really make you think. You know,
right?
And that's the whole point of stuff like this, is to make you think before bad stuff happens, so that you're ready when it does.
You know, I spend all my day when I'm driving running through scenarios. What if this car does this? What if this happens? What if a deer popped out here? What if a raccoon jumps out and touches my no square? I don't know.
Or a squirrel.
Squirrel. Anyhow, inside RWE, safety is a system, not a suggestion, y'all. We help trucking entrepreneurs build businesses that protect their families and their futures. Feel free to join us at www.rwedrive.com, rwedrive.com, because my mouth gets ahead of my brain or something else. Anyhow, we're going to do this thing. We'll be right back. You're either running your business like an owner or like an employee. And if you're stuck in that employee mindset, you're leaving money on the table. Company drivers wait for direction. Business owners create opportunities. Company drivers chase miles and just drive. Business owners chase profits and know their numbers. Want to run a real business? Start tracking your numbers. Know your cost per mile and start saying no to bad loads. Drop "I run a business" in the comments if you're done thinking like an employee. If you want to take this mindset shift further, join the Road Warrior Entrepreneurs community at www.rwedrive.com, where we have profit boosting strategies, coaching calls, and real road warriors winning together. Thank you for the clickable link. My hair is tore up. I need to cut my hair, man. I've just been whatever. I'm beautiful in my own inside my own whatever. Trucker Tim, having adaptive cruise control has helped me become safer. You know what? I'm going to admit something here, and it's bad coming from a former GI, right? I am terrible at judging range.
Really?
I have always it was my biggest problem. So I was one of those guys that had to really learn that pace count, Jeff, in land nav, because what I thought was a quarter mile
Was not.
not close one way or the other.
But they didn't issue a laser rangefinder.
Right. Trying to figure out, that's 800 meters out to that target. At any given time, I might call it 300 or I might call it 1500. I very rarely ever tagged 800.
So range cards must have been a thing for you.
Oh, absolutely. Make notes.
Technology. I remember the first GPS we got issued was like this big.
Yep.
And a bunch of us just went to G.I. Joe's. You remember G.I. Joe's in Oregon?
Yeah.
You went to G.I. Joe's and got a civilian model that did grid square because they were better. They were more accurate than the government model that was given us. And then the first laser rangefinder that we got was like this big. It was like it looked a lot like the binoculars in Star Wars.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I've always struggled with that, and so I don't trust my eye. And way stations. I love that way stations put that keep 100-foot interval gap, and they put a sign every 100 feet. That helps. The forward-looking radar, the accident avoidance mitigation stuff, helps me do a better job, because what I think is, 500 feet might be 250. It might be 750. I am really bad at that range thing.
So flying Blackhawks was never in your future.
No. But so yeah, Tim, I'm with you there, man. Thanks for putting up that clickable link, Craig. I appreciate you. On the YouTubes, you could actually click that and go check it out.
Now, just so people know too, we are in the middle of a 6-week class on that community. Hero on a Mission. We just did the first one on Saturday. We'll do the second one this Saturday. I'm going to call you out, Ida. I know you've been in the classes up till now. We missed you. Everybody missed Ida. It's I can't speak for when number 3 is going to be, but I've got the first 2. The first one was done on Saturday, and we've gone macabre. You like that?
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced? I don't even know. We went dark and we started writing our own eulogies on Saturday. Right. So good stuff coming your way on rwdrive.com. Join our school community. Be a hero on a mission. I already have stuff planned for after that, just so you guys know. We're going to be moving more into business stuff after this 6-week course.
We've got to get the vision and the mindset set first.
Yep.
It's building a foundation here, guys. So bear with us. And I think that, in the end, over time, you're going to see, oh, man, this all makes sense,
Yep.
Jeff's been doing a pretty good job of explaining why we're doing these things first. And I dig it. And by the way, thank you, Jeff, because Jeff has really put a lot of time and effort into this stuff. Can be viewed after the live show.
The course in the school community?
Yes.
Yeah, it's up now in the school community in a couple of places, but if you go to Zoom replays, the last weekend's is up already, and that's in our school community, which is $47 a month to sign up now, and you get everything that we've ever done. in there. We've got a special one that Josh Hull did for us in February,
That was awesome.
the best year ever training. And then I'm doubling down on it with the Hero on a Mission training that we're doing right now. So anytime, we set it up this way on purpose, guys, because we realize I drive, you guys drive. So scheduling it, everybody can do the live thing. It's a little bit wonky. So within a few hours of the live, I get it up for the replay. And the replay is available forever as long as you remember.
Yeah, you just go back over it, find spots that
And on this one, I even have a fancy PDF for you to download.
yeah. Got a workbook and stuff.
Yep.
Adulting.
Yeah, and again, this is I'll toot my horn a little bit here, Charlie. This is all part of, up until this point, I've had to kind of pussyfoot around some of this stuff. Because before I got certified to teach this stuff, you're talking about intellectual property that doesn't belong to me.
Right.
For some of it. Yes, it's my own course, but it's based on someone else's intellectual property.
Right.
Now that I'm certified with those people, I can use anything that they have. So I no longer have to kind of
and we can adapt it to our needs, to our audience,
right,
to our community.
It's an interesting thing. This whole, they call it the knowledge industry. These really smart people that have words that I didn't even know existed until last week. And then so I could take what they did and say, okay, but I teach truckers. Let's make it for trucking.
Right.
So it's good stuff.
Hey, Blindside. But yeah, if there's anything you guys want to dip into, by all means, let us know. Drop if you got a question. If you want to go back to something we talked about during the first half of the show, by all means, we will absolutely do that. If you're catching this on the replay and you have questions, put comments. Questions.
How old is Chris Hamilton?
93, I believe.
My first GPS in the Army for a Humvee.
Right. Well, he had a Humvee, so
he can't be that old.
And he had a GPS.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, Sergeant Major of the Army at the time and was just finishing up his 52-year career.
True. So did you hear about that? Speaking of old soldiers, there was a dude, and he died not too many years ago. He served in World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Right.
Never saw combat.
Isn't that insane?
Like as a buck private at the end of World War I, he became like a general's aide or something like that.
Right.
And he just stayed in that position for all that time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was back when you could do that, man.
Right. Look. My first GPS was a paper map. Right?
Amen, brother.
Like when I went through in 92, I don't think it was till 93 that we actually got a GPS at our unit.
Yeah.
See,
I went through in 94, and in my guard unit, we got the first GPS in 95, 96.
Okay. Chris Hamilton, he's 103. There you go. His words.
All right. I believe it.
Ida, technology is scary, man. For real. But it can also be an absolute savior. It's all a matter of perspective and how you use that. I mean, it's like anything, good versus evil.
Charlie and I talked about this in the class on Saturday. We've gotten pretty comfortable with AI now. I use Grok quite a bit. That's the one that Elon Musk came up with. Charlie's using ChatGPT. And not to create, but to give us prompts to get us off what they call the blank page.
Right.
Like what writer's block is. You can do these exercises with GPT with prompts and say, hey, I'm having a hard time, but I need to teach this thing about this. And it'll come up with a list of questions that totally spark your imagination.
Right.
And then it'll help you edit your content for grammar and stuff. It's almost like having an editor on staff but not having to pay for it.
Right. Look, one of the things that I love to do with GPT is I get the seed of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to grow that, build it, proceed. So I'll drop it in GPT. Hey, I was thinking about doing a series on this, right? And GPT will be super friendly and tell me, well, that's great. Here are some suggestions on, how you could move forward with it. Have you looked at this aspect? Have you looked at this? And it'll grow it into something even better. And I'll keep asking questions. I'm like, okay, I like that part, but I'm not really a fan of this part. What can we do differently here? And well, let's try this and this, and it becomes a crafting tool.
Yep.
Right. If you're having to write a letter to someone maybe that you don't know that's of a sensitive nature, and you just want to type Bill Flarn, Bill Flarn, exclamation, type in that to GPT or your AI and say, I got to send a letter to this person for this reason. This is what I'm thinking. And it will change, hopefully, your mindset and your style for what you're sending, because I have absolutely done something similar to that.
Well, I've had AI, and this is with Gigi, the one that Tony Robbins came up with. Literally, I put in my thing, right, and it literally came back saying, well, let's make you sound less like a jerk.
Right.
Let's try this.
Yeah. Oh, I've had multiple occasions like that, because there are some posts where I'm like, I'm about to be on fire and I'm going to piss somebody off and it's going to get ugly. And, I need to be a little more diplomatic. Look, sometimes it's just worth being real.
Yeah. We were meeting with our business coach today.
Right.
And he uses Chat GPT. He told us he's got to respond to a text and do it without offending the person.
Right.
And he's having a hard time coming up with words that wouldn't offend the person.
Right.
So he's going to run it through Chat GPT.
I just said, speaking of veterans, it's Armed Forces Week at Mission Barbecue Saturday. Any member, active or retired, get your free sandwich. Don't forget to stop in and get the sandwich. There's actually quite a few of those that you can get near with a big truck. I see them all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're all over down here. I dig it. Tim said, I remember having to use printed maps leading us to Walmart stores 22 years ago before GPS. Talk about risky. Yeah, looking at the map while driving along city roads, right? That's what that's when I broke out that pen on the windshield, the dry erase, and hoped that I didn't fog up the window and it disappeared.
Coast Guard.
No comment. Just saying. We love everybody. Come on. They all understand. We love to pick on each other.
Hey, there was a time there in the late 90s that if you wanted to see combat, you needed to join the Coast Guard.
Right?
Because they were the only ones shooting at people.
Oh, man. You purple crayon eating no good mofos. You know what you are. I love you to death. Oh, man. So, yeah. Joker, I love you too, man. Oh, Lord. But yeah, if there's anything you guys want to dip into, by all means, pop it up. We've got about a half hour left before our scheduled bounce time. Today was a rough day for me, Jeff. You saw what happened to me earlier. I had a weird deal, dude. It spiraled quickly on me today. That migraine turned into all kinds of nonsense that I'll have to tell you about tomorrow or something.
Yeah, that's another safety thing, by the way, Charlie. Now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Paying attention to how you feel before you decide to get going down the road.
Or noticing the change while you're driving and saying, hey, man, this is more important that I stop. You know, a lot of us are just too damn stubborn. I can push through it. You know, especially look, our generation, suck it up and drive on. Especially those who serve, suck it up and drive on. Suck it up and
Yep.
drive on. Mission first, mission first, mission first. Uh, Out here in the civilian world, not a great tactic. It's just not. People can
So,
get
Ida,
hurt.
are they serving crayons as a side?
You know they are. How did you guys find so many purple crayons? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Gosh. Uh,
I'm going over his ICOA.
oh. Okie dokie. Hey, you know, if you guys ever want to do stuff like that, you know, send us a contract and you want us to look over it. Understand that it's not going to happen right away. It takes us time to kind of dip through these things. You know, there's a couple contracts we know really well and others that are completely foreign to us, and we have to analyze and scrutinize and kind of form opinions. But there is a way you can send us to it. Send those to us if you'd like to. We will absolutely keep them confidential if that's what you want us to do. No problem there at all. You can just send us an email to charliemayan.cc@gmail.com. Send a copy of your contracts. You know, we actually like looking at what other companies are doing with their contracts.
Absolutely.
It helps us make better, informative decisions for us, our members, and, you know, each other. You know, so by all means, share those if you don't mind. You know, be careful. Some are absolutely proprietary, and, you know, you sign a thing saying I'm not going to share it, whatever. If you send it to me, I'm not going to put it up on a screen. How's that? I won't put it on the glass, as they say. But if you want us to talk about it, we can definitely talk about it. If you just wanted a one-on-one type of deal, or, you know, you, me, and Jeff having a discussion about it, we can do that. We can set up some time. You know, be patient and understand that, you know, it takes some time to go through those things. Not just the 5 minutes that they give you before they make you sign it. Is Walmart starting to hire any owner ops yet? Heard they were going to do like Amazon does. I don't know. I haven't heard that. That would be interesting. Be interesting to see how they run that model. Yeah, blind sites listening, by the way, cooking dinner.
What's that?
Blind sites listening, cooking dinner while we're doing the show. I like it.
Nice.
Hope it's something good. My dinner's on the stove. It got done right before we started. I didn't have time. Microwave it is. Michael Fowler. I yell at people doing stupid stuff going down the road. My wife always responds by saying, "What did they say?" That's funny. That's funny. I like it.
I don't know, Sean. I don't know.
Inside baseball going on there.
Tim, I did text Colton, but he's on vacation right now, so let's give him about another week, and I'll hit him up again. He's wondering if Colton will take a look at his ATBS tax return to see if there's errors.
Gotcha.
I know he doesn't give very many of those, so I'm hoping that he just does it because he's curious. You know.
BLT sandwiches here. Matt said. You guys should have seen Matt during the Saturday Here on a Mission class. He was looking all beautiful. He was laying stomach down on a pillow, his head propped up. It was fabulous. God, you had to be there. Or you could catch the replay. What? See what I did there? Oh, man. So, yeah. This week was a tough one for me. And I don't know why. Your mic is gone, Jeff. There it is. No, can't hear you though. I heard you tap it. Nope. That's weird. Nope. Interesting. Oh, that I hear.
Better?
Oh yeah. I had jokes. Your hands were too low. We'll leave it at that. Sorry, Don. I love you. I
You're
didn't
gonna get
elaborate.
yourself in trouble.
You're right. Silent movie, Jeff. Chris Hamilton, I detect a bromance. Bro, you got to meet up with Matt one day. You'll want to hug him too. He is an all-enveloping hugger, and he just makes you feel safe, bro. I'm just saying. I apparently make people cry when I hug them. That's one of my superpowers. I can hug someone who's hiding something within their brain, their heart, their soul, and they cry and let it out. I was talking about that with my mom, as a matter of fact, this week. And she's like, well, that's a good thing. And I'm like, yeah, most of the time. Sometimes it just drops more on your head. Whatever. I just said she had pasta with vodka sauce and squash. Was it really sauce? I'm just saying, is that what the cool kids are calling it these days?
Never been a cool kid, so I couldn't tell you.
Right. Trigger team. Yeah, the brisket tacos weren't too bad. I would have loved it if I could have put lettuce, tomato, and cheese on it. I also tried their mac and cheese. That was pretty good. Yeah, I actually don't mind their mac and cheese. Yeah, it depends on the QT and how busy they are, because a lot of them will do weird things.
I really like the brisket tacos with just a little bit of. I've got this guacamole habanero sauce that I have on the truck. Oh man, I'll put that stuff on anything. That and Cajun spice.
Oh gosh, food. We're all belly driven. Oh my gosh, that's how I used to plan my routes.
Oh,
yeah, that's how I would plan my day. Where can I go for lunch? Where can I go for a place that has a good dinner and a good breakfast?
nice.
That's my goal for the day. That's where I'm going to end up tonight. You know, that Petro up in Wyoming back in the day was fabulous. You know, the buffet in the evenings, especially, you know, come Friday, Saturday when it was steaks and stuff.
I miss buffets.
I know, right? Anyhow,
My pancreas doesn't.
Right. Yeah, for real. I started saying, you know, it was a rough week. I just couldn't get into a groove this week, man. It was, my first day was fantastic. And I don't know, it's just all this weird family stuff going on, things like that, you know. This goes back to our safety talk. I allowed some of this family stuff to block out some of the little tiny things that I do every day that I should be doing every day. And I would skip a couple of them. Like, you know, I was on a dock and you know, silly thing, close the big door before we ever put a seal on the truck. Right. Almost forgot to put bananas back on the trailer because, you know, they typically pull them out of the way, unload their stuff, get their bananas and put the bananas back on. But it's those little tiny things, you know, if you don't get focused, and that was my big kryptonite this week was focus.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not focused on the big things. It was focused on the little things. Yeah, they lost their butt on that one, Ida. She said, remember the TA all-you-can-eat menu? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't even know what they were thinking there, to be honest.
And, you know, truckers, come on.
Right? My very first trainer over at FFE, Arthur Jane, challenge accepted.
Yep.
Bottomless steaks. What? Oh my gosh. Trickerton, that's exactly how I plan my routes. I'll often go out of route 10 miles to hit the Shady Maple smorgasbord near I can't even say that. Ephrata,
Ephrata?
PA. Yeah, don't know it, but good on you, sir. I get it.
Lubbock, Texas used to have a great catfish buffet.
Yeah,
It's
I remember
really good.
seeing that, but I'm not a catfish guy. I, I, I don't know why.
It was kind of a Forrest Gump style buffet. They had fried catfish, baked catfish, grilled
right.
catfish. You know,
Oh, I dig it. I probably should have stopped in there and actually tried it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
a
I'll
place is
find a
good
way.
when every single cop is there for lunch.
Right?
Me and my student, the first time I went there, me and my student at the time, who's a good friend of mine now, we walk in there and there's nothing but law enforcement in there. You know, multiple agencies
Right.
sitting down for the buffet, and we're like, okay, this is going to be good.
Yes. Oh, you can eat steak and scrimp.
Yep.
Scrimp grumbo, scrimp creole. Sorry, it's terrible. Michael Fowler says, Shady Maple, awesome place. Look at that. I'm learning some stuff. I'm going to have to, it's so rare that I get up in a place like that. I'll have to dip back and put things in notes because Lord knows I'll forget. My truck's going in the shop tomorrow. I was supposed to go drop it off this morning and I decided not to because reasons. But I do have an appointment 10 o'clock tomorrow. 400,000 mile service. Who knows? This is
Did you
the
get your
scary
transmission done at 300?
What?
Did you get your transmission done yet?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep. I believe it was 300 or 350. I can't remember which one it was,
I
but
think
yeah,
it's a 350.
it was the big service.
But it's for those of you that don't know, at about 350,000 miles, there's a transmission service, and it's not just changing the fluid. They replace a couple seals in there and stuff like that.
Narc said overhead time. It's a good preventative move, but at the same time, I am of the
Opinion.
right, that you should only crack open the overhead when there's signs for it. Fuel mileage loss, power loss, things like that. And that's just the way I've been all along. I'm afraid of having someone go in and do the overhead with it not necessarily needing to be done and screwing it up. Does that make sense? Because I've seen it happen. It sucks. By the way, what's up, Mike? Good to see you, buddy.
We're gonna have him on the show next week.
Yeah, Mike's gonna be here next week. He's gonna be our local expert mechanic. We're gonna be actually talking about excuse me. Oh, maintenance. You know what? I could just go ahead and drop that right here. Next week, mastering maintenance, lower cost, less downtime, longer truck life. Why reactive maintenance is bleeding profits, simple systems to stay ahead of breakdowns, and how preventative planning saves your time and your wallet. You're right. But yeah, so we're gonna have our buddy Mike the mechanic, aka codename Narc. This is the funny thing because some people know Narc for the hate and discontent side of things, and some people know Narc for the mechanical stuff. And this dude has helped so many people on phone calls. Hey man, yeah, you need to do this. People he don't even like really dislikes. We'll put it that way. And they'll call him up on the phone on the down low. Hey man, I got this problem. He's like, all right, you'll need to do this, this, and that, and that, and this, that. I mean, it's crazy. Your Southern card revoked. Look, I was born in California, so whatever. Say what you will. Yeah, just never. So it's kind of a contradiction, Tim. I don't like bottom feeding fish except for halibut.
Huh.
And they are absolutely the bottom feeders in the world, right?
Yes, they are.
Figure it out. I don't know why. There's something about the meat in catfish that I just haven't enjoyed. Look, Trucker Tim's even looking forward. He says, I remember y'all having him on before. He's a character. Absolutely. Love Narc. He knows it. Uh, the people that know him just as the crazy, toxic, uh, hate and discontent dude is, you'd be surprised. It's funny. Yeah. Wimpy said that explains everything. California nut. Yep. Left when I was 17. Never really looked back. Went back once actually. Right after my son was born, we moved back down there for like a year or something like that.
Nuts and raisins.
Huh?
Nuts and raisins.
Yep. Blindsight Narc has helped me out several times. Yep. Look, when I have a maintenance question or a repair question, I call him typically. That's my dude. You know, people will ask us questions on here, and I'm like, man, I don't know. You know, someone will call me or something like that, and I'm like, hang on, let me get you an answer, and I'll text him or call him, and he'll be like, yeah, you're an idiot. Just do this, dummy. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? He's like, because you're not a mechanic. And yeah, I'm like, you're right. Narc said, yeah, Craig, Charlie's right. Having a good mechanic you trust, pop your truck open is okay. Just random shop dealer checking it. Yeah, no. Yeah, for real. I have a really good Detroit. There is a really fantastic Detroit shop in Ocala. Like they legit. But again, my fuel mileage is actually doing what it's been doing. It's fine. Compression seems to be legit, you know, based on performance, power and all that. So I'm a little leery of cracking it, especially since I don't own the truck right now. I think you stated that properly. Oh, wait, there's the comment. Never mind. Tim said, crappie, bluegill, and catfish, my favorite. I thought he was saying
I'm not a big crappie fan.
My bad. Punctuation is important there.
Crappie, same thing.
Tim, watch this. I'm going to break your brain. I don't like trout or salmon either.
Yeah, that we almost became not friends because of that.
Right? I love fishing for them. Like I was a big steelhead and salmon fisher up when I lived up in Oregon. Love fishing those things, and I would give them all away, or I'd set them free. That was weird. People were like, "What's wrong with you, bro?" I'm like, I just love the act of fishing. I like the fight, trying to figure out what gets them to bite, things like that. I don't know. It's weird. Blindside said, I'll have my DD13 overhead every 100,000 miles now that it's over 700K, but I'm also afraid of someone screwing up. Had mechanics say at 609 they wouldn't last 40K. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, so we asked Bruce Mallison about that, and he would disagree with that wholeheartedly. Right.
Now we're talking about fish. Love me some crappie, Sean said. My lighter is being a complete pain in the backside today. Both of them.
That's why you need a Zippo.
Look, they don't work right for me. They're great for other things. I don't believe they're great for cigars.
It's been a minute since we brought that up.
Right. You know, it's funny. All these people that said they were sending me Zippos, not one. Just saying. And I was thankful that I didn't get them because I'm not a Zippo guy either. Whatever. Sushi, good luck. Stop it.
I like good sushi. I have to go with my friend that actually was in the Marine Corps over in Okinawa, though, and have him order for me.
Right.
Because he absolutely knows the difference. Red snapper's a good fish. I like red snapper.
Good jokes. Tim said, shop manager in Greer this morning was the first one to finally tell me the potential reason why those assorted warning lights would come on and prevent truck from getting into gear despite pushing brake. Oh, you should share that. I had a weird thing happen. I told Jeff about it the other day. I was driving down the road and getting ready to hit my fuel stop. You know, the truck was doing the rolling regen thing like they do because that's the way they're supposed to work. And when I pulled into the QT, you know, I got the little light basically that says, hey, stupid, it's super hot. Don't turn it off. Let's cool it down slow, right? So I left the truck running, went inside, used the restroom. came back out. I mean, literally just 3 minutes, 4 minutes, right?
Mhm.
As I'm climbing back up into the seat, I see a mild Christmas tree along the left side of my dash. I'm like, what the heck? Both check engine lights, a red light. Didn't even get to see it because it went away so fast. And that's part of my little story here. I saw on the dash it said emergency shutdown 3, 2, 1, and the damn truck turned off. Just shut down. And I'm like, well, that was weird because I've never seen anything like that. I turned the key off and back on, and no codes. So I have no idea what the heck happened or why it did what it did. And it started up just fine. The light that, the amber light that actually says check engine on it was lit for a minute, and it turned out. And I had just the solid amber one because once a code is thrown, that one will stay on for with the
Ever.
Freightliners and DDs like 3 start stop cycles.
Yep.
And it went away, and I haven't had a problem since. So I don't know what the heck that was. I'm just curious if anyone's seen something like that. I didn't see anything. I got there right at the end of the countdown and didn't even get to read the whole dash. Bummed me out. Maybe I'll ask him to pull the code history again. Oh, wait. Sometimes my device that I have works for that. I have to see if it's in there. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow morning before I head to the terminal.
Yeah, somebody mentioned smelt up there, and being from Oregon, in the Portland metro area, we used to go out to the Sandy River. Easiest fish in the world to catch, just dip a net,
Right?
get a 5-gallon bucket worth, and go home.
Huh. Trucker Tim said, he said moisture is probably getting into one of the sensors behind the brake pedal at the air manifold or something like that. That makes sense.
That would explain why my 16 is going into gear again.
Right? Yeah, that was crazy. While Jeff was home this time, his dang truck went into gear like it was nothing.
Yep. It's been sitting for a year.
It's crazy, man. These trucks, man, there's something else. Blindside, I miss cigars. I'm actually thinking about quitting, like legitimately going through the
Again?
process. But legitimately going through the, but you know the backstory and the family and all
Yeah.
that stuff going on. So, it's hard to encourage someone else to smoke when you're still a smoker, or to encourage someone to quit smoking when you're still a smoker.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things. I need to do it for myself. I'm aware of that. I get it. But hey, if it's a kick from someone else to help someone else, then maybe that'll be the kick that I really need, right? And I can just whatever. I'm no quitter. Yeah. Tim said he recommended if I can afford it to replace the entire manifold, as the replacing just one can easily damage more since they're so brittle. Yeah. That could be one of those preventative things. If there's an issue happening, I think I would be a little more, I would try to do some deeper troubleshooting on it if possible. I'm not sure how you would do that before I made the total swap, or, depending on the cost, maybe it's worth it just to do it so you don't have those problems, right? It would just bum me out to replace it and still have the same problem, though. That's what sucks to me. And that's always a possibility.
The other thing it could be is the control unit for the transmission, by the way.
Right.
And that could cost anywhere from $250 to have it reflashed to a couple $1,000 to replace the whole thing.
I'd have quit smoking. You can too. I know. I smoke more out of keeping my hand busy and something to do.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of my cigars sit there and burn, and you see me, I have to constantly keep relighting them because, why not? Yeah, it's the physical habit, I think. I mean, there's definitely the psychological nicotine addiction, whatever. I get it. Yeah. It's more the action. But I truly enjoy smoking and always have. Like it's crazy. The warmth of drawing on a cigarette or a cigar, the taste, the flavor, the whole thing. It's a weird package for me. And I'm a bad addict. Let's be real. Um, thank God I never got into heroin or anything like that, right? Good Lord. Be a different person. Ida's having fun with her phone. You can too. And then she says, I have living in the future. This phone types and posts whatever it wants. And I'm willing to bet that having was supposed to be love or have. Ida, are you drunk? What? No. Your phone is. Oh, so Tim said a little more follow-up. He said he's seen the issue several times and replacing the whole thing would be cheaper than paying for diagnosis. Well, there you go. Cheaper than diagnostic time. You know, that's kind of a legit thing sometimes.
Yeah.
Diagnostics is a pain sometimes, man. Ugh. The amount of time that they charge you for some of these things, I call BS on.
So drug runner, so that's not true. It's almost never the module. That's not true. So my guy that's local to Tooele,
I know a guy.
he has a contract where he has a maintenance contract with the Walmart DC. And what he has personally found is that about just over half the time, Charlie, that their trucks are having this problem, he reflashes the computer and it goes away. It's like as you drive more miles down the road, the thing starts getting confused on the shift points.
Right.
And most of the time, he doesn't even have to replace the module. He just has to reflash it.
Oh, you're right, Mike.
That's right.
What part of vodka sauce did you not get? You're right, sir. You're right. Look, it's okay. It's 8:00 where we're at, Ida and I. We're not at the same place. That sounded weird. In Florida. Whatever. Little extra sauce there, Ida. What? I'm just saying. Oh, man. Jeff, what else you got, man? Is there anything you want to dip on before we dip out? What?
No, I'm good.
It's been a long day.
It's almost bedtime, man.
Right? I feel the same way. I'm going to go shove food in my face and probably lay down. That's the intention. I don't know. I could end up sitting in front of Minecraft for a minute. We'll see. But I got to get up early tomorrow. All right, guys. Jeff, take us out, man.
All right. Remember to keep that rubber side down, guys. And with no action, there is no traction.
Look after each other. There's no one out here looking after us but us. No one out here looking after us but us. There goes those lips again. They ain't flapping right. We'll see you guys here next week, next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us and hanging out and sharing and being a part of this crazy, wacky world that we like to call Trucking Talks Live and the Road Warrior Entrepreneur Community and all these things and Contractors Corner Consulting Group. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Hey, Narc, Mike. We'll see you Tuesday, buddy. I'm gonna send you some. I'm gonna send you my notes. Not that you have to follow them, just so you can see what I do every week. It's weird, man. It keeps me keeps the squirrels out of my head. Anyhow, I'll send them to you later this week, buddy. And we'll see you guys then. Be careful.